In the contemporary landscape of professional sports, few athletes have transcended their sport as rapidly or as distinctively as Angel Reese. From her collegiate dominance to her highly scrutinized transition into the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, Reese has occupied a unique space in the cultural and athletic zeitgeist. However, as the 2026 WNBA season progresses, a profound disconnect has emerged between the public narrative surrounding her performance and the structural reality of her on-court utility. The mainstream sports media frequently fragments her impact into digestible, highly polarized talking points, often oscillating between uncritical hyperbole and overly harsh skepticism. But beneath the noise of social media metrics and daytime sports debate lies a complex structural evolution. The true nature of Angel Reese's new tactical role is an uncomfortable reality that challenges traditional basketball analytics and exposes the biases of conventional talent evaluation. To truly understand her trajectory, one must look past the box scores and examine the mathematical, physical, and psychological gravity she exerts every time she steps onto the hardwood. The evolution from collegiate focal point to professional anchor. To appreciate the structural shifts in Reese's current professional utilization, it is essential to establish the contrast with her collegiate baseline. At the university level, Reese operated as an absolute solar system. The offense was intentionally designed to funnel touches through her in the low post, utilizing her physical advantages to dictate tempo, draw double teams, and establish an interior baseline. She was a high-usage archetype whose primary responsibility was scoring volume and primary rim insulation. Upon entering the WNBA, however, that archetype faced an immediate structural bottleneck. The professional ranks possess a level of defensive sophistication, structural length, and scouting precision that renders predictable, low-post isolation offenses highly inefficient unless executed by historically elite size. Recognizing this paradigm shift, coaching staffs have quietly but radically engineered a new role for Reese. She has transitioned from a high-usage offensive focal point into an elite, high-efficiency structural anchor. This new role is defined not by how many plays are run for her, but by how her unique physical profile and processing speed optimize the efficiency of the entire five-player unit. It is a role rooted in secondary actions, continuous movement, and elite spatial manipulation. Yet, because this transformation does not mirror the traditional superstar scoring blueprint, mainstream analysts have consistently mischaracterized her evolution as a regression. The uncomfortable truth is that her reduced offensive usage has actually unlocked a much higher ceiling for her team's overall offensive rating. The advanced metrics of invisible gravity, traditional basketball evaluation has long been plagued by a reliance on surface-level statistics, points, assists, and blocks. While Reese continues to post impressive raw rebounding numbers, her true value in her new role is illuminated by advanced micrometrics that rarely make the evening highlight reels. Consider the mechanics of her screen setting and spatial gravity. In contemporary WNBA defensive schemes, elite pick-and-roll coverage requires immediate decisive switching or aggressive hedging. When Reese acts as the primary screener, her physical frame and the sheer velocity of her rolls to the basket force opposing weak-side defenders to collapse into the paint prematurely. This phenomenon, known in analytical circles as gravity, creates an invisible passing lane to the perimeter. Even when Reese does not receive the ball or log a direct assist, her hard roll is the exact catalyst for the wide-open three-pointer on the opposite wing. Furthermore, her offensive rebounding metrics deserve a more sophisticated interrogation than they typically receive. Critics often minimize her historic offensive glass cleaning by claiming she merely rebounds her own misses, a narrative that is statistically inaccurate. Tracking data reveals that Reese possesses an elite, almost telepathic understanding of shot trajectories, spin patterns, and box-out vulnerabilities. Her second-chance generation rate doesn't just provide extra possessions, it fundamentally alters the defensive posture of the opposition. Knowing that Reese is on the floor, opposing guards cannot leak out early in transition. They are forced to stay back and assist their front court in securing the defensive glass. By single-handedly neutralizing the opponent's fast break transition offense through the sheer threat of her offensive rebounding, Reese dictates the structural flow of the game without ever touching the ball. The defensive chameleon. Defying position lock. Perhaps the most significant, unadmitted truth about Angel Reese's professional utility is her elite defensive versatility. Traditional basketball logic dictates that an interior player of her stature should be anchored to the paint, acting as a drop coverage rim protector. However, the modern WNBA offense is built on hunting mismatches, utilizing high screen actions to force slower front court players into isolation situations against lightning-fast perimeter guards. In response to this tactical landscape, Reese has been deployed as a defensive chameleon. Her lateral quickness, core strength, and recovery speed allow her to execute complex defensive coverages that few players her size can sustain. When forced to switch onto elite perimeter ball handlers at the top of the key, Reese does not concede driving lanes. Instead, she utilizes her lateral agility to contain the drive, using her length to contest shots without fouling. Simultaneously, when rotating back into the paint, her lower body strength allows her to battle traditional centers, denying deep post position and disrupting low post entry passes. This ability to break traditional positional boundaries solves a massive structural puzzle for her coaching staff. It allows the team to stay in a highly aggressive, switching defensive scheme without sacrificing interior size or rebounding positioning. To admit that Reese is a highly effective perimeter defender as well as an interior enforcer forces a recalibration of what a modern WNBA frontcourt player is supposed to look like. A recalibration that many traditionalists are fundamentally resistant to making. The weaponization of pacing and high-velocity transition. Another critical element of Reese's new role that remains largely unexamined is her function as a high-velocity transition catalyst. In the modern era, transition basketball is no longer just about guards sprinting down the sidelines. It is about the speed at which the ball is secured and advanced from the defensive glass. Reese has perfected the art of the grab and go. When she secures a defensive rebound, she does not look for a traditional outlet pass to a designated point guard. Instead, her ball handling capability allows her to immediately push the pace herself, advancing the ball across half court before the opposing defense can establish its half-court matching principles. This creates instant cross matches and chaotic defensive scrambles. Even when she functions as a trailer in secondary transition, her relentless rim running puts immense vertical pressure on the opposing defense. A backpedaling defender is forced to make a split-second decision, contest the driving guard, or drop back to prevent Reese from getting a direct catch and flush at the rim. This relentless baseline pacing wears opponents down over the course of 40 minutes. It is an exhausting, physical brand of basketball that doesn't always result in a direct stat for Reese, but systematically inflates her team's transition scoring efficiency. The media often focuses on her half-court offensive limitations, completely ignoring the fact that she is one of the most effective transition-generating front-court players in professional basketball. The psychological crucible and leadership demands. Beyond the tactical configurations and analytical metrics, any honest evaluation of Angel Reese's role must account for the unprecedented psychological environment in which she operates. No rookie or young player in the history of the WNBA has had to navigate the sheer volume of external noise, hyper-scrutiny, and cultural polarization that follows Reese. Every missed layup is magnified into a structural flaw. Every emotional reaction is dissected as a character deficit. Within this crucible, her actual role inside the locker room has evolved into one of resilient leadership. While external forces attempt to construct an adversarial narrative, her teammates and coaching staff describe a player who is intensely focused on film study, tactical accountability, and collective cohesion. Reese has internalized her role as the team's emotional lightning rod. By absorbing the brunt of the media's scrutiny and public pressure, she shields her teammates, allowing them to operate in a more stable, less reactionary environment. This psychological resilience manifests on the court as a refusal to back down from physical or emotional confrontation. In a league defined by its veteran physicality and mental toughness, Reese has refused to be intimidated. She plays with an unapologetic, high-intensity edge that infuses her entire unit with confidence. When your young anchor refuses to yield an inch of ground to establish superstars, it alters the competitive DNA of the entire franchise. This emotional orchestration is an essential component of her value, yet it remains completely unquantifiable by mainstream sports journalism. Deconstructing the biases of the critics. Why then is the truth about her impactful evolution so fiercely resisted by the broader sports community? The answer lies in a combination of confirmation bias, aesthetic preference, and an archaic definition of basketball excellence. For decades, the dominant aesthetic preference in basketball has skewed toward the fluid perimeter-oriented shot maker. We celebrate the smooth step-back jumper, the crossover fluidly transitioning into a high-arching floater, and the clinical precision of three-point specialists. Reese's game is entirely different. It is visceral, physical, and rooted in the exhausting work of low-post positioning, box outs, deflections, and second-chance points. It is a style of play that is won in the trenches of the paint, requiring immense physical toll and unglamorous execution. Because her game lacks the traditional aesthetic polish that modern fans are conditioned to celebrate, critics mistake her raw mechanics for a lack of elite skill. They fail to understand that positioning, timing, structural leverage, and high motor endurance are elite skills. To acknowledge Reese's greatness in her new role requires a shift away from the highlight reel mentality and a return to evaluating basketball as a game of structural efficiency and possession optimization. It requires admitting that a player who shoots a lower field goal percentage can still be the most impactful offensive player on the floor through the sheer volume of extra possessions and free throw attempts she generates for her unit. The trajectory of greatness. As the WNBA enters a historic era of growth, popularity, and tactical evolution, Angel Reese stands at the absolute vanguard of this transformation. The uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit is that she has already mastered the most difficult transition in professional sports, adapting her game from an individual collegiate showcase into a highly sophisticated, team-optimizing professional anchor. She has silenced the critics who claimed her game wouldn't translate to the professional level by changing the very metrics of translation. She didn't adjust to the WNBA, she forced the WNBA to adjust to her physical and tactical reality. Her evolving role is a blueprint for the modern, positionless, high-motor front court archetype. The talking heads will continue to debate her shooting mechanics, and social media platforms will continue to generate polarized engagement off her name. But for those who view the game through a lens of tactical clarity and analytical precision, the reality is undeniable. Angel Reese is not just surviving in her new professional role. She is quietly rewriting the rules of structural impact, one invisible possession at a time.